YouTube, YouTube. I think that'll do for us for now. Looks like, oh, yeah, we can, okay. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I forget what I can and cannot do. But I do still love each and every one of you, and I can't wait to bring you guys in on our little afternoon's activity. If you can't tell from what we have set up over there, and if you're not dizzy yet, my apologies, but you will be soon. Don't worry. What we have set up over here, of course, is, and let me make sure I'm not gonna completely make this. Yeah, let's go back in. Pardon me. Maybe a little sip of coffee before we officially get started, right? After all, it is the crack of 1:07 p.m. All right, first little staging area or filtration, screening, I don't even know what you call this, but my little pouring station is set up with a much larger Pyrex and a larger net for stainless steel screen. And also I have just made sure that the stand that I was using, the adapter that I'm using, can hold a full-size mason jar. So that's really all you were seeing there. And also I wanted it for picture. But anyway, and then over here we have just a singular, a smaller cup, and I, more than likely, because what's going to be poured into this guy has a much, obviously a significantly smaller terpene fraction than Run DOC-A and Run DOC-B, which you can see there's a little variance in color, but when they're blended together, they will be phenomenal. Phenomenal. So, obviously, that's what we're going to pour through here, and I'm going to kind of let the lab work or lab stand do the work for me while I manually pour the Buzz OG. So let's get into it. Let's take a quick look here at our first extraction. Obviously, I'm not going for like large stone growth, as you can see. You can almost even kind of see down in the jar there. But it's just really going for a nice THCA fraction, which of course would give me the ability to separate a nice terpene fraction. So, oh, and I almost forgot. Actually, so there's two ways to do this here. I could neck these up a little bit and pour these into a short wide mouth jar. I'm sure I have one clean around here somewhere. I mean, I should, right? Okay, maybe I don't. Anyway, we would just pause the stream and do that. But the purpose for that, of course, would be if I was attempting to go after more THCA because my sauce, let's say, was just still so thick, not very. And for the record, both of these, before there was any THCA crash in either one of these jars, this was very thick, going back and forth. Now that most of the THCA in this liquid has crashed out, it's very thin. And then, of course, there's some residual solvent, as you'll see, and it'll start to boil or foam when it hits the room temperature, which our room temperature is. Well, okay, we're at 60? No. Yeah, a little lower than that. So we're at, there we are, 58 degrees. Sorry, guys. About 58 and a half degrees. So, yes, there's residual solvent, but it's cold enough in here that if, if there was anywhere near the amount of thickness left in these that where we started with, it wouldn't pour well, it wouldn't go through the screen well, etc. But what I was mentioning about pouring into a jar, before I get too far off track here, is by raising this up and then setting, let's say, another sterilized mason jar underneath the net, my little screen here, to catch the Turk sauce. I then, of course, catch the bulk of that Turk sauce into said clean mason jar. And then when that is close to dry, but not trying to go crazy with it, but getting most of it separated in that jar, then I cap this jar, set it back in the same environment that I was using to crash these pucks of THCA here, and then this big old boy. Then we let the Turk sauce, or high terpene fraction, sit in a separate jar, sealed, with some residual solvent in it, of course, because it's not going to lay out onto this tray and foam out. But by doing that, we can encourage the last or any of the THCA in that high terpene fraction, most of the high THCA, back it up. We can encourage most of the THCA that is in this solution, the liquid solution, still, to go ahead and crash, giving us a stable liquid terpene fraction, or high terpene fraction. And terpene fraction is, we should call it a terp fraction, because it's obviously, this isn't just, in this liquid is not just terpenes, it's with terpenes, flavonoids, terpenoids, esters, residual solvent. There's lipid content in here. It goes on and on. But you're not here for that. So let's go ahead and start to pour our DOCOG, and then we'll pour the buzz next. Let's bring you guys just a little closer. Myrcene and terpinolene. You know what's up. Kyle knows what the fuck's up. Myrcene and terpinolene is my shit. So, you're gonna hear a little poop, because obviously there's some, again, residual solvent in this jar. But, you know what, that's not actually the coolest thing. Let me just move a couple things real quick, because I can bring you in on, I think I can bring you in on a really cool shot here. There we go. And yeah, we can always back out a little bit if you'd like to see more of the jar, but honestly, you'll see the bottom of it from that. So as you can see, I'm tilting making my lap stand work for me. And the first jar that I'm going to pour is the one of the lighter color that seems to have an even thinner or more efficiently crashed terpene fraction. So now we'll just fasten this guy. Oop, got some Turks right there on the fingers already. Fasten this guy nice right up in there. And then we give her a tilt. Oh, glorious me. Look at that, you guys. Like, oof. And of course, the purpose of the net during these pours is very simply just to catch any residual or anything that was floating, right? I mean, and to catch as much of it as possible. But to go back to our conversation where I mentioned pouring this into a jar. as opposed to out onto some Pyrex. Because I've chosen this method, and I mean this way to skin the cat, I will be combining these sauces. Sorry, I'll get back to that in a sec. Sorry, man, I saw the comment. I saw about half of it. It looks good. Anyway, so I saw, we'll see this and the other terpene fraction from the DOC, which is certainly not unattractive, just has a little bit more color to it. So anyway, we'll see both of those mixed together in here. And then by purging this at not too hot, but about 80 to 85 degrees. And you can go cooler for longer, or you can go warmer for less time. You know what I mean? You know what the variables are. The warmer the warmer you are, the more terpene content you're going to destroy. However, the more efficiently you will clean the oil, especially under vacuum. And then vice versa. The cooler it is, the more terpene content that you will preserve, but it will be that much more work for you to clean. So, am I going to change the screen here? Absolutely not. This was literally run one, or run A and run B. So, throw that little drip off there. Give you guys a little peek into the mine. Listen, you can hear it. Is this the very first BHO ASMR video? Appreciate you, Kyle. You know what's up. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. There is our THCA heavy in, as in, when we say THCA and high terpene, what we really mean is, high cannabinoid, and high terpene. It's not, obviously there is terpene content in here. Look, you can see the color, you can see the liquid, etc. However, by leaving this to be destroyed, I can very gently clean this jar, and sacrifice what terpene content is here, not to the gods or anything, but in an effort to make a very clean product. And then, of course, with a little chemical engineering, or what some people like to simply say, recombination. But anyway, with a little chemical engineering, we can reintroduce that very, very, very protected and cleaned at a much lower temperature terpene fraction, or high terpene fraction, so that two things can happen. Number one, we have the ability to maintain the flavor profile as much as possible that we discussed. But by spreading my terpene fraction out evenly in this Pyrex, which usually you don't need this to do, you can just kind of pour it back and forth. This is really more for cleaning it up. But I'm spreading this out and exposing it to as much surface area as possible. And then, of course, vacuum purging at gentle temperatures for the terpene profile, but high enough to stabilize the sauce. This will give us, it may thicken a little because of a residual amount of THCA, but I do feel like I've given these jars enough time that residual amount of THCA should be minimal at best. Now, this jar is very necessary as far as for the little hammock, because we got kind of We had a puck split there. That's the one. You saw it. But anyway, in the event that the top half of this, the THCA puck, were to fall, I obviously want it to be caught in a little net there that's very securely fastened. I think it's securely fastened. Anyway, obviously, keeping it out of the sauce. So, again, if I haven't beat this horse to death yet, let me go ahead and give it a shot. Sorry. By pouring out into a Pyrex like this and then purging at, again, a low enough temperature to preserve as much of the terpene profile as possible, but to get it clean, I not only clean the sauce so that it can be recombined and enjoyed safely after recombination, or even enjoyed by itself, which is incredibly loud, but also incredibly enjoyable. So, regardless, pick your poison. But again, that stability gives me the ability to package, to use, to recombine, to fill up dab darts, and that's what I mean by package simply, but a terp sauce that will not continue to crash. In other instances, pardon me, I just burped there. In other instances, you can use your terpene fraction or your terp sauce when stabilized and when you know it will not crash any further to flavor distillate. And in my opinion, a DOCOG flavored distillate cart is gonna be about as fire of a Buzz Genetics cart that you could possibly get your hands on, until, of course, you try one of my liquid cured resin carts, which is a technique we'll be bringing to video here soon, guys. A lot of that content, of course, will be over on Patreon, because that's where I can keep from being hung in the middle of in town square for trying to share some cannabis information. But as always, I will continue to try and bring what I can to you guys here on YouTube, and as not just live in the lab series. I do have some pre-recorded or edited content, if you will, getting ready to drop over here on YouTube as well. And the Patreon family, you guys already know what's up. So we'll set you up over. Oops. Wouldn't it be cool if I had a cameraman? Wouldn't it be cool if I had money for a camera? Anyway. Look at that. Just like, yeesh. Just enough of the terp fraction left in there to make it easy to get it out, or easier. Obviously, this was not a no puck all stack tech. These are jars that were let to grow while I worked on many other things. But we, as well as the cured resin technique that I spoke of. Let's see here, which one? So that's it. The cured resin technique that I mentioned briefly, we will also be getting much further into crystallography over the next 3 months. By the beginning or middle of August, it should be pretty interesting. And those of you here on Patreon, not here on Patreon, those of you that are over on Patreon as well as here on YouTube, you're going to be getting a little bit more than your money's worth. It doesn't matter what tier you are. You could be the first person that goes hardcore and signs up to be a sponsor, but oof, it doesn't matter. I have information that is invaluable, and I've been accumulating it for not only years through practice, but I've also worked with other, true experts in the field. And I have some upcoming work with some of those true experts in the field of crystallography. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to bring you what we have coming down the line. And that, of course, is this summer. Still have a lot to come in between now and then over on the Patreon channel. We have a three-part, closed loop extraction video about to come down. And aside from that, our weekly series, peeks behind the curtain, lab check-ins such as this, as long as I'm able to continue to do these here on YouTube as well. But it seems like that might be a thing that's about to be of the past. So, if that becomes a Patreon-only thing or only series as well, then I would just take this quick second to remind you that it is only $3 a month for the new Recruit package. The new Recruit gives you access to all of the patron-only live streams and patron-only posted content. There are some specific advantages to the higher tiers, but there's a whole hell of a lot more than $3 worth of information available to you right now. And $3 gives you 30 days. So now that we got our DOC over there collecting and doing its thing, the only reason, I wish I had a more shallow vessel, but since this is a small amount, I don't mind, because that seems like it's going to spread out. Okay, there on the bottom of that. But this guy, I ran out of lab stands. See there, when we pop it, you can see the residual solvent there. And really, a lot of that is gapping that the residual solvent, microscopic little spacing that the residual solvent forces down in that little puck of THCA as it grows. And that's why you see the bubbles come up from it. And then sometimes you see little floaters, which of course is why we use our net. And by net we mean screen. God damn, why is everything set so tight? All right, guys. Here we go. Yummy, yummy, yummy in my tummy. This is a little thicker. She's a little thicker. There we go. Just, again, for anybody wondering, the foam, right? This is very, very residual solvent heavy mix or solution. And of course, the stainless steel little net here and the bowl. These are all room temperature. Yes, I could have chilled these to make for a more, a prettier pour, but I mean, really? How much time do you guys think I have? And there we go. Here comes some chunks of THCA falling out. They're gonna foam up like crazy. Uh-oh. Is this whole jar about to fall out on me? It looks like it, guys. Good thing this net is still plenty of a little catch, if you will. I don't know why I keep calling it a net. I guess that's just because that's what it's technically doing for me, is being a net. Little piece went to the side. It made it around. Damn it. So that's why sometimes it can be very important to have the same size vessel as your screen or a much larger vessel than your jar. And that very simply is because of what just happened right there. But that's okay, because we can pull that guy right back out. And we just, of course, need to do that quick enough that it, as in, when you see it happen. There we go. Come on, guy. God damn. I fucking hate my camera sometimes. And by sometimes, I mean most of the time. At least we got that drip happening in the background, right? Anyway, hopefully you guys can maybe see that. I'm gonna drop it. But we got a little chunk of that THCA that fell. And there she goes. We'll let her fall right back in the top, where she belongs with the rest of the sugar. And by sugar, I of course mean terpy sugar. It's just about ready to be the best it can be. Yeah. And that's what's going on. In the net. And we'll go a little further back here. There we go, guys. So now the nice thing about this is with consistency, I mean, obviously, you know, there is a call and sometimes a desire for larger THCA facets, which I just dropped some more of my THCA down into my sauce, which will just pick that up real quick. But the sugar, whoops. Sorry, I don't want to get the bottom of my bowl dirty, but I missed my... We missed. Oops. Anyway, finally here, as you can see, our pours are completing, especially up here on the other side. And what I mean specifically by that is that the pour that you see that we did first, the DOCOG, I will be doing this too. And that's why it has the larger basket, because there are 2 jars of it. So we get it all out, and I think, and the question that I saw that I really wanted to get back to had something to do with the micron specificity in the screen. And yes, you're right. Is if your question was whether or not that's going to make a difference for THCA to fall through into the sauce fraction. Of course it will. In this instance, which this is our first pour, or if you will, our first crash, when after finished purging, A lot of times during the purge, just at 80, 85, maybe even 90 degrees if you want to go hot and quick or whatever. But that THC, those small, very, very micro clusters, or if you will, or micro diamonds, sugar of THCA will redissolve. And when, of course, that happens, see what I mean here? So when, of course, that happens, we're good to go as far as if THCA or any sort of small sugar diamond, etc., was present in the sauce, and then after purging and heating, became, redissolved back into a liquid, then generally by the time you have completed that consistency change, not only is your terp sauce clean, but it should be stabilized into a liquid. And as you can see here, we're just burping it. And yes, there has to be some making it through the net, right? Or through the stainless steel, of course. But right now, our pile or puck or mound of THCA, if you will, is acting as its own filter. By just continuing to apply light pressure, we're burping the last little bits of liquid, or as much as we can, of course, without a centrifuge. With the centrifuge, I wouldn't be doing any of this dumb shit. I would just be putting this into tubes, into centrifuge bags, and spinning it for 10 minutes. And this comes out as dry as a bone, and my terpene fraction comes out fucking stable and properly separated. But I don't have that equipment yet, ladies and gentlemen. Someday soon. I want to make some diamond milk. Shout out Top Secret. All right, guys. So I continue to nurse this and nurse this and nurse this until the point where I'm thinking I'm just forcing things through by the amount of solid that's coming through on the bottom, which at this point still is very little, if any. But when we get to the point where we feel like we're starting to force it through, then we stop. And we don't just stop. Gotta take off the gloves. We come on over here into the oven. As you can see, we have a very full oven at the moment. But by using the shelves on the side of the oven, I can usually set up those baskets or nets of THCA above their Pyrex or basin, vessel, whatever the hell it is, jar, I don't know, whatever we're trying to separate into. But anyway, I can usually use that and stage that with these shelves, starting, kind of at the very bottom here, and then we'll use about half of the oven to stage the first one, and then that's going to be very difficult because that one is so damn tall. But we'll figure it out. Then, at a nice gentle temperature, we start to pull a vacuum, and by pulling a vacuum and then letting it sit overnight at that nice gentle temperature, the sauciness you're seeing come through that stainless steel mesh or net not only pulls its way into the sauce collection jar or Pyrex that I have below it, but it does a great job of drying or purifying our THCA fraction. And so, again, we got the big jar or big net out here for the DOC run because we got two pretty big jars, two pretty big pucks, 250 grams or so pucks of THCA from each jar. So want to give that the space and the time that it needs in the oven under vacuum at, again, gentle temperatures. 80 degrees is really like as hot as you should go, especially if you're going to leave things overnight. Maybe even cooler. You can do this at 70, and it'll be that much better for your end result as far as testing or terpene profile. But you have to decide where your, where the factor comes into play for you. When does it become diminishing returns? Is this a thing that you need to get cleaned in 4 hours, or a thing that you can set up and let clean over 18 hours while you work on other things, meaning that your time is not being wasted? I am, unfortunately today, a little bit more on that side of things, whereas I have about 15 things going on, and I need this sauce to get clean. So luckily, I have timers and a very specifically temperature-controlled AI oven. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is essentially how some of us separate some THCA sugar, THCA diamonds in some case. In this case, both of these runs I would classify as sugar. In other cases, sometimes a caviar. Maybe not much bigger than the sugar, but clearly not just sugar. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Not sure how entertaining that kind of stuff is for you guys, but I used to like to stare at it on the YouTubes. So we finished nursing over here. We empty our THCA into our net and begin and finish nursing over here. Stage things using the shelves in my vacuum oven, because obviously if I had a big enough vacuum oven, like an actual commercial one, I would just freaking move the stands and everything over there into it, close the door and set it up. But I don't have a Sawzall, and I don't feel like cutting lab stands right now. So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this little live from the lab. I, of course, appreciate each and every one of you. And as I mentioned in the video description, or probably at least a couple times during this little live stream, the real party is happening over on Patreon, baby. And by that I mean, this is where I'm able to keep from getting community guideline strikes, etc. And also I don't have to continue to try and to rephrase every sentence, because every once in a while I like to say shit. Which, watch, just the saying of that one time at the end of this video, and who knows how many other times that I cussed that I don't even remember right now, but I thought I did pretty well. Anyway, that 38 minutes in, just saying the poopy will get me age restricted. Because it's not like the chemistry that we are going over, a little bit of a chemical engineering that we're going over in this video, and then of course the discussion of crystallography, which brought us to this point, should be age restricted. There's nothing about consumption or anything like that in this content. I'm only here telling you specifically why, what is happening on your screen. So hopefully this goes well for me. Hey, Wolfman, I appreciate you, man. And the delay, it is what it is. But also I was running late because, you know, I'm chunky, man. Fuck, it takes me, I think it's only going to take me 5 minutes to walk up the hill, and it's, you know, I need 2 breaks and shit. Mercine gang, Mercine and Terpenoline, let's go. Yes, a Buchner funnel and a vacuum would work with this, but unfortunately, with a Buchner funnel, let's go ahead and get into that real quick before we end the stream. I'm glad I got to the chat. Because of the, excuse me, the large nature, and this of course is a massive Buchner funnel, you could use a smaller one, but because of what's happening here and here, you're going to lose a residual, and not residual, a significant amount of your oil or your sauce to this. And then again, it's kind of unnecessary in my mind because the loss of that terpene or high terpene fraction is boo or a bummer, but you can do what I mentioned, which is of course pour into larger vessels like this, and then with a little bit of gentle heat purging under vacuum, you can almost always return everything to a liquid if a little bit of the THCA happens to make its way through. If not, when you are finished your little purging, which is typically a 24-hour thing, 18 to 36 tops, but because you keep it spread out thin, and you know if you're trying to purge it in a tiny little jar, you're a dumbass. I'm sorry, but spread it out as thin as you can and give it the full vac. You don't have to give it a bunch of heat, especially not spread out so thin. Once you're finished your purging, clean it back up. Get it all cleaned back into a fresh, clean, sterilized jar. Doesn't have to be a tall guy. Then that sauce gets sealed in that jar and left for another 3 to 5 days minimum to see if it will continue to crash, number one. But then maybe even more importantly, for whatever microscopic amount of THCA that's making it through our net to go ahead and adhere itself to the bottom of the jar, much like our huge pucks of THCA do. So it's almost no problem at all for a thin layer to adhere itself. Point made? Maybe? So yes, of course you can use the Buchner to do this by maybe taking 1 or 2 more steps. You can bring a lot more of your terpene fraction into an actual jar that you use, as opposed to leaving it in a Buchner funnel that you are then, of course, going to have to clean, and then you eventually get to use that dirty ethanol and make some, well, at the very least, food-grade distillate. But depending, I guess, on your technique there, distillate is distillate. So yeah, Buchner can be done. I personally choose to skip it. Oh, Kyle hit it. And you really don't. You don't need that fine of a micron, but appreciate you, Kyle. I didn't see it, but thank you, man. You know what's up, man. I'm just trying to stay on here. Just trying to keep from getting fucking deleted. I mean, stinking deleted. God damn it. Hey, I love it. It is. Fuber duper, this is all Buzz Genetics material. This was all from that peak, or sorry, just these 3 jars. Just these three jars, as well as that massive jar of caviar I showed you. About a pound of some just gnarly crumble. And then, of course, that huge Pyrex in the bottom, which will be another little shy of, but close to a pound of crumble. And you see that rack down there with a shelf on it, on every freaking shelf. Those are all 125 to 275 grams. gram slabs of shatter on each shelf. All of that material came from what I showed you guys in that little peek behind the curtain video here, which means that all of this is, of course, Buzz Genetics extracted material. Aliyam! I love that emoji. And the background drop, am I right? Stop working it out, go get it. That's fucking hilarious, brother. I love it, man. That's good, dude. Who said that? One for thought, and what a great name too. One for thought. Stop working it out. Just go get it. Damn. And then Momanic Meds with the love. Wolfman, you know what's up, brother. And George Ward, I appreciate that because it truly is just chemistry. And surface area is your friend, as Kyle repeats. That mouth. I do. And I got you, Kyle. Unfortunately, I don't think I have you on seed. But any cutting that you might be interested in, feel free to comment underneath his page. Or even just DM me if you want to send me the post or DM me the post and say if you feel like that might be more appropriate. He is a licensed dispensary. I really don't know. But the fact of the matter is that here in Montana, we're allowed to sell cuttings of whatever strains we're growing legally. Don't know if Ryan is not doing that yet for some sort of legal reason, as in like that you need a specific area of licensing for that, as like the way that you need a vape license to be able to sell cartridges. But either way, you know what's up, homie. Get underneath that comment section. Whatever strain, Ryan's constantly posting bud shots of every strain he grows. So just tag me or DM me with the post and let me know, and I'll get you a cutting, brother. Your family, homie. Now, of course, what we are talking about right now has absolutely no legal recourse because Kyle would be coming to see me here in Montana, obviously, or I would be going to see Kyle, wherever the hell Kyle is. Nothing shifty happening over here. So go ahead and take your little finger back off that report button and put it right back up your asshole. Now this shit just got demonetized. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! All right, guys. I love you. I hope you had a fun little shot of what it's like to actually. This is gonna get me demonetized. To shoot a porno? Uh-oh. And I say demonetized as if my entire channel isn't already and hasn't already been demonetized for the 4th time. There's nothing I can do or can get from these over here on YouTube other than just to share it with you guys, which is really why that's why I come over here. That and of course to tell you all about patreon.com/the710extractionist, my Instagram account, which of course is under the same name, the 710 Extractionist, but with an underscore as of my most recent deletion. Not so recent, luckily. But you can find me just about anywhere because I'm always under the same name. So just look for me, look for that stupid Bitmoji till we get an actual logo. Other than that, if you haven't yet, check out the what used to be live stream, but now I'm trying to structure it a little bit more like a podcast. But the weekly series, 710 Opinions. This past weekend's episode did not come to fruition as it was my birthday, and I had a couple other things going on. But if you are not watching this live, then you will see that title card more than likely, if not right now, within a few seconds. So, much love, ladies and gentlemen. Click on that stupid looking fucking head and subscribe and follow that playlist so you can check out what we've been doing over here on 710 Opinions. And then, aside from that, get in the Patreon party, ladies and gentlemen. New recruit spaces are still open at $3 a month, giving you access to all patron-only live stream and all patron-only video and audio-only content. Come on. Come see me. All right, guys. Much love. I got to get back to it. Sooner than later.